The air inside Docking Bay 9 was thick with noise, the clatter of cargo crates, the hiss of steam vents, and the constant murmur of alien voices. Ethan Cole stepped off his ship, tired and ready to rest after 3 long days of hauling supplies. Through pirate-infested space, he wanted nothing more than to get paid and find a quiet corner in a bar. But before he could take 3 steps, someone blocked his way. It wasn't a big, dangerous bounty hunter or a group of armed guards. It was a girl, an alien girl. She stood only 4 feet tall, with pale silver skin and short black hair that glinted under the station's lights. Her large golden eyes locked on him with a focus so sharp it made him stop without thinking. On her chest was a strange golden insignia shaped like a star, split into 3 pieces. "Follow me, human," she said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of an order. Ethan frowned. He didn't know her, and she was half his size, but the way she spoke, it was as if she expected obedience without question. "I think you've got the wrong guy," Ethan replied, trying to walk past her. But then something strange happened. The crowd in the Docking Bay, aliens of all shapes and sizes, stepped aside as she moved. Even the tall, armored guards at the security gates didn't stop her. They didn't even check her clearance. They just lowered their heads slightly and let her through. Ethan hesitated, curiosity winning over common sense. Who was this girl? Why did people act like she was dangerous or important? Before he knew it, he was following her through a side corridor, deeper into the restricted areas of the station. The hallway grew quieter the further they went. Only the sound of their footsteps echoed against the metal walls. Ethan noticed that the lights above flickered slightly. It was the kind of place only high-ranking officials or criminals dared to walk without fear. And this girl, she walked like she owned it. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked. She didn't answer. Her small boots tapped against the floor in an unhurried rhythm. It was like she knew he wouldn't dare turn back. Finally, they entered a small control room, the doors sliding shut behind them with a heavy hiss. A single table stood in the center, covered in holographic maps and data screens. The girl turned to face him, her golden eyes locking onto his again. "From now on," she said softly, "you work for me." Ethan laughed. It wasn't the kind of amused laugh that came from something truly funny. It was the kind you made when someone told a joke that made no sense. "I don't even know who you are," he said, "and I already have a job." She tilted her head slightly, as if examining an insect. Then she tapped a small device on her wrist. A holographic file appeared in the air. It was his ship's registration and his debt record. She knew exactly how much he owed, and to whom. "If you refuse me," she said, her voice still calm but colder now, "you lose your ship by the end of the week." Ethan froze. This wasn't a bluff. These were files only high-level station authorities could access. Who was she? And how could someone so small have this kind of power? "What do you want?" he finally asked, her lips curved slightly, not a smile. "Not exactly, but something close. There's a job," she said. "You will transport a crate for me. It will be dangerous, but you will do it. And you will not open it." He shook his head. "This sounds like smuggling." "It is," she replied, without hesitation. "But unlike the jobs you take now, this one will not get you killed unless you disobey me." Ethan looked at her, trying to read her expression, but those golden eyes gave nothing away. There was no fear in her, no doubt. She spoke like a commander giving orders to a soldier. And the strangest part? He felt the urge to follow, even though every instinct told him to run. Finally, he said, "And if I refuse?" She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then you won't live long enough to regret it." A shiver ran down his spine. Not because of her size, she was small enough he could pick her up with one arm, but because he knew she wasn't joking. Ethan had met dangerous people before, pirates, mercenaries, corrupt officials, but none of them had made him feel like this, like he was standing in front of someone who saw the whole game while he didn't even know the rules. Outside the control room, a loud alarm blared. Somewhere on the station, Trouble had started. But the girl didn't flinch. She simply looked at him and said, "Decide, human, right now." Ethan took a deep breath. He didn't know why, but he nodded. "Fine, I'll take your job." Her expression didn't change. She simply turned away, walking toward the door. "Good," she said. "Then from this moment on, you belong to me." And as the door opened, Ethan realized two things. First, he had just agreed to something he didn't understand, and second, he might never be able to walk away. Ethan sat in the pilot's chair of his ship, the horizon, staring at the strange crate sitting in the middle of his cargo hold. It was sealed with black alloy and marked with glowing blue symbols he didn't recognize. It didn't hum, it didn't tick, it didn't even have a latch, yet it felt dangerous, like it was watching him. The small alien girl Lyra was seated in the co-pilot seat. Her short legs crossed. She didn't look at him, just kept her gaze on the stars outside the viewport. It was as if she had been here 1,000 times before, giving silent orders in a war he didn't know existed. "So, are you going to tell me what's inside that thing?" Ethan asked. "No," she replied without turning her head. "That's classified." He frowned. "You dragged me through the station, threatened to take my ship, and hand me some mystery box. Don't you think I deserve to know what I'm risking my neck for?" Her golden eyes flicked toward him, calm but sharp. "You don't deserve to know. You need to know. And what you need to know is this: deliver it to the coordinates I send you. No detours, no scans, no delays." Ethan leaned back, frustrated. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word felt like a locked door slamming shut. "What's at the coordinates?" he asked. "A war zone," she said simply. "A planet called Varios." That name made Ethan's stomach twist. Varios wasn't just any war zone. It was the kind of place even mercenaries avoided. 2 alien factions had been fighting there for years, burning entire cities to ash. "I'm not flying into Varios," Ethan said. "You are," Lyra replied without hesitation. "And you will land in the southern wastelands. Someone will meet you there." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "You've got to be joking." "I don't joke." She cut him off. "And I don't repeat orders." The ship lifted off from the station, the engines humming softly. Ethan kept glancing at her, wondering what exactly she had over him. She wasn't carrying a weapon. She wasn't bigger or stronger, but somehow she made him feel like a rookie pilot being lectured by a veteran general. "You still haven't told me who you really are," Ethan said after a while. Lyra didn't answer at first. Instead, she reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data chip. She slid it into the console, and a hologram appeared. Images of massive warships, fleets of fighters, and a younger Lyra standing on a command bridge in a black uniform. "I was the youngest commander in the Starlands fleet," she said quietly, "and I was betrayed. Now I work from the shadows." Ethan studied the hologram. It was hard to imagine the tiny girl beside him giving orders to thousands of soldiers. But the images were real. He could see her standing before towering alien officers, all of them, listening to her like she was the only voice that mattered. "And the crate?" he asked. Her gaze hardened. "The crate is my way back." Before he could ask more, the console beeped an incoming transmission. Ethan tapped the controls, and a deep, distorted voice filled the cabin. "Commander Vera." "We know you're moving the package." Ethan froze. They weren't talking to him. They were talking to her. "Turn over the human in the crate," the voice continued, "and we'll let you live." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "I don't negotiate with traitors," she said, her voice colder than space itself. The transmission cut off instantly. Ethan looked at her. That sounded like a death threat. "It was," she replied calmly. "Get used to it." Hours later, they slipped into hyperspace, the swirling blue light casting strange shadows across the cockpit. Ethan tried to focus on the navigation data, but his mind kept drifting. He had taken dangerous jobs before, but never for someone this mysterious, and never with the sense that every move was being watched, not just by enemies, but by the person sitting beside him. Finally, he asked, "Why me?" There are hundreds of pilots out there better equipped than I am. She didn't look at him when she answered, because you're unpredictable. And because you owe no loyalty to anyone but yourself. That makes you dangerous to my enemies. It wasn't exactly a compliment. But it told him one thing: she had picked him on purpose. And whatever this mission was, she wasn't going to let him walk away until it was done. The jump ended with a sharp jolt, the ship emerging into a sector filled with dark asteroid fields. "This is the last safe route to Varios," Lyra said. "After this, if anyone sees us, they'll shoot." Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. He didn't like flying blind through hostile territory, but the look in her eyes told him. She didn't care about his comfort, only results. As they weaved between drifting rocks, Ethan noticed movement on the radar. "Company," he muttered. 3 small blips closing in fast, pirate ships, or worse. Lyra leaned forward, her fingers dancing across the weapons console. "Keep flying," she said. Her voice was calm, almost bored. But there was a glint in her eyes now, a glint that told Ethan she was ready for a fight. The radar blips grew larger, closing the distance fast. 3 ships small fast, built for one purpose: killing. Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. "They're coming straight at us," he muttered. Lyra didn't move from her seat, but her golden eyes were fixed on the incoming signals. "Don't change course," she said. "They'll fire the moment we turn." Ethan frowned. "That's comforting," he said, his voice dry, but he kept the horizon steady, weaving between massive asteroids that floated like silent mountains in the black void. The comm system crackled, and a harsh alien voice filled the cockpit. "Turn over the package, human, and we might let you live." Ethan opened his mouth to reply, but Lyra leaned forward and cut the comm. "They won't let you live," she said simply. "They're not here to bargain." The first shot came without warning. A bright spear of plasma shot past the horizons nose, melting a chunk off an asteroid behind them. Ethan yanked the controls, the ship rolling hard to the right. "They're already firing." He snapped. "Yes," Lyra said calmly. "That means we can fire back." Her small hands moved across the weapons console like she was born for it. Turrets unfolded from the horizon's hull, tracking the enemy ships with cold precision. Ethan had flown with gunners before, but none like her. She didn't just aim. She predicted. Every time an enemy ship darted behind an asteroid, she was already swinging the turrets to where they would reappear. The first enemy fighter exploded in a flash of light, debris scattering into the void. Ethan blinked. "You're good," he admitted. Lyra didn't smile. "I'm the best," she said without pride, just stating a fact. The other 2 ships split apart, one circling high, the other low. "They're trying to flank us," Ethan warned. Lyra's fingers danced faster, switching weapon modes. "Then let them try," she murmured. The high ship came in first, firing a barrage of plasma bolts. Ethan spun the horizon, scraping dangerously close to an asteroid's jagged surface. The enemy pilot tried to follow, but Lyra fired a single rail shot that punched clean through the fighter's cockpit. The ship went dark and drifted into a rock, breaking apart. "One left," Ethan said. The last ship was different. It didn't attack right away. It stayed behind an asteroid, keeping its distance. "They're calling for backup," Lyra said, reading the signals on her console. "We have about 2 minutes before more arrive." Ethan's gut tightened. "We need to get out of here now." "We will," she said, "but first we finish this one." She pressed a control, and the horizon's engines flared brighter. Instead of running, she pushed the ship toward the asteroid, hiding the last fighter. The enemy moved to dodge, but Lyra was ready. She spun the ship sideways, exposing the underbelly cannons, and fired a cluster of missiles. The blast tore through the asteroid and caught the fighter mid-escape, shredding it into pieces. The radar went clear. Ethan let out a long breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "You could have told me you planned to fly straight into them," he said. "You would have hesitated," Lyra replied, "and hesitation kills." He turned to look at her. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and alive. In that moment, he realized something. She wasn't just some spoiled alien with connections. She was a soldier, a fighter, and a dangerous one before he could say anything else. A new warning light flashed on the console. Ethan's stomach sank. "Let me guess, more incoming?" "Yes," Lyra said, "but not fighters." She pointed to the screen. A massive blip was moving toward them, fast, too big for a normal ship. "That's a patrol cruiser," she said. "And it's blocking the only exit from this sector." Ethan's mind raced. Patrol cruisers were heavily armed and shielded. Even the Horizon's weapons wouldn't do much damage. "You have a plan for that?" he asked. Lyra's lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "Yes," she said, "but you won't like it." She leaned over to the controls and plotted a course straight toward the asteroid belt's densest cluster. "That's suicide," Ethan said. "That's survival," she replied. "The cruiser can't follow us in there without tearing itself apart. And if we go fast enough, the debris field will hide our trail." Ethan gritted his teeth. He didn't like it, but she was right. He pushed the throttle forward, and the Horizon shot toward the wall of spinning rocks and drifting debris. The cruiser changed course to follow, but as Lyra predicted, it slowed before entering the danger zone. Inside the dense asteroid field, Ethan's hands worked fast, dodging massive rocks and sudden bursts of frozen gas. Lyra kept her eyes on the sensors. "They've lost visual," she said, "but they're still tracking our energy signature." Without hesitation, she reached down and shut off half the ship's systems. The cockpit dimmed, and the engines dropped to a near-silent hum. "Now we drift," she said. "For how long?" Ethan asked. "Until they give up." They floated in silence. Hidden in the shadows of the asteroids, Ethan's heart was still pounding. "That was close," he said quietly. "It won't be the last," Lyra replied. "From now on, every enemy in this sector knows the package is moving." Ethan glanced at the sealed crate in the cargo hold. Whatever was inside it, it was worth killing for. And worth dying for. The Horizon drifted in silence, hidden deep in the asteroid field. For hours, nothing moved but the slow spin of rocks and the faint glimmer of distant stars. Ethan kept one hand on the controls, the other resting near the thruster switches. If an enemy ship appeared, he would need to act fast. Lyra sat in the co-pilot's chair, eyes closed, breathing slow at first. Ethan thought she was resting, but then he noticed her fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. It wasn't random. It was a pattern, a code, maybe. It made him wonder how many secrets she was hiding. Finally, the sensors cleared. No ships nearby. Ethan powered up the engines and eased the Horizon out of the asteroid belt. "Where to now?" he asked. "Varios," she replied. Without opening her eyes, he sighed. "That war zone again." "Yes," she said simply. "You still haven't told me why the package has to go there." Lyra's eyes opened slowly, the golden glow in them sharp and unblinking. "It's not about the planet," she said. "It's about the people who are waiting there." Her voice was different, now not the cold, commanding tone she usually used, but quieter, heavier. Ethan leaned back, studying her. "You're not just some random smuggler, are you?" he asked, her lips curved, but it wasn't a smile. "No," she said. "I'm the one they tried to erase." Before Ethan could ask what she meant, she reached into her jacket and pulled out a small black cylinder. With a flick of her thumb, it projected a hologram into the air. Ethan's eyes widened. It was Lyra, but not the small lone traveler sitting in his cockpit. This Lyra wore a dark military uniform, standing on the command bridge of a massive warship. Dozens of alien officers surrounded her, all waiting for her orders. "That's you," Ethan said slowly. "Yes," she replied. "I was Commander Lyra Vera of the Starland's fleet." Ethan whistled. "I've heard of them. Top fleet in the Orion Arm. Fastest ships, deadliest weapons." Lyra nodded. "We were undefeated, until my own council betrayed me." Her voice stayed calm, but Ethan could hear the faint edge of anger underneath. "They said I overstepped, that I took too much power. They were afraid of me." "What did you do?" Ethan asked. "I won wars," she said, as if it were obvious. and I refuse to hand my fleet over to fools. She turned the hologram to show a battle scene, warships locked in combat, explosions tearing through the black void. I was framed for treason, she said. My officers were killed or scattered, my ship stolen. But I still have allies, hidden far from the Council's reach. Ethan nodded toward the crate in the cargo hold. And that? Her gaze shifted to the sealed black alloy box. That, she said, is the key to reclaiming everything they took. He raised an eyebrow. What's in it? She shook her head. You don't want to know. You're probably right. Ethan muttered, leaning back. But I'm guessing it's worth a lot more than my ship. Lyra looked at him. It's worth more than your planet. She said softly. Ethan froze. That was the first time she had mentioned Earth. Don't look so surprised, she said. I know where you're from. Humans are unpredictable. That's why I need you. Before he could reply, the proximity alarm began to beep. Ethan's eyes darted to the radar, 3 small blips closing in. They found us again, he said. No, Lyra corrected. These aren't enemies. Moments later, 3 sleek ships emerged from hyperspace, their hulls painted in dark metallic blue. Ethan recognized the design. It was Starlin's tech, the kind used by the elite before the fleet vanished. As the ships circled the horizon, one opened a channel. A male alien voice spoke in a low, respectful tone. Commander Vera. We've been waiting. Ethan glanced at Lyra. They still call you Commander, he said. Because I am, she replied. Even without a fleet, I am their commander. The 3 ships formed an escort around the horizon, guiding them toward a massive station hidden behind a dead moon. As they approached, Ethan saw the station wasn't fully functional. Parts of it were in shadow, damaged, but there was still enough life inside to keep it running. When they docked, the hangar crew saluted Lyra as she stepped off. Some bowed, others touched their hands to their chests. To them, she wasn't just a leader, she was someone worth risking everything for. Ethan followed, still trying to make sense of it all. How do you go from being hunted to being treated like a queen? He asked quietly. Lyra didn't slow her pace. You survive, she said. And you make your enemies regret letting you live. They walked into a war room, its walls covered in holographic maps and tactical plans. Several officers waited, their eyes lighting up when they saw her. One stepped forward, bowing deeply. Commander, the southern wastelands of Varios are secure for your arrival. Lyra nodded. Good, she said. We leave within the hour. Ethan folded his arms. And I'm guessing I don't get a choice in this? Lyra looked at him. You can walk away, she said. But you won't. And she was right, he wouldn't, not because she owned him, but because he was starting to realize something. This wasn't just a delivery, it was a war, and he was already in it. Asterisk. The war room's low lights glimmered across the holographic table. Maps of Varios rotated in the air, glowing red where battles still raged. Ethan stood with his arms crossed, studying the chaos displayed before him. Every marked zone was a kill zone. If they went there, they'd be flying straight into fire. Lyra stood at the center, calm and still, like a queen in her throne room. Around her, officers waited silently for orders. Her golden eyes scanned the maps until she froze on one glowing point, a small, barren section labeled Southern Wastelands. That's where we're going, she said. Ethan couldn't help but scoff. That's suicide. She didn't even glance at him. It's necessary. One of her officers stepped forward. Commander, the area is crawling with scavenger clans and mercenaries, he said. They've been taking down any ship that enters. Lyra nodded slowly. Which is why we'll arrive before they expect us. Ethan leaned closer to the hologram. You keep saying we like I signed up for this. You did, she said simply. When you agreed to take the crate. He exhaled sharply. And what do I get in return? Because so far, all I've gotten is shot at. This time she looked at him. Her gaze was sharp but not hostile. I'll make you a deal, she said. If you help me get the crate to Varios, I will erase every debt you have. I'll pay off your ship, clear your name from every registry, and I'll make sure you have enough credits to never take another job you don't want." Ethan blinked. That was more than tempting. It was the kind of offer that could change his life completely. But it was also the kind of promise that got people killed. He studied her for a moment. "You're either telling the truth, or you're the best liar I've ever met." She tilted her head slightly. "Both can be true." One of the officers brought up a live feed from Varios. The screen showed burning skies, wrecked cities, and scavenger patrols dragging wreckage into makeshift camps. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Why there?" he asked. Lyra's tone was cool. "Because my enemies believe no one would be foolish enough to hide something important in a wasteland." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Hide what?" She tapped the crate's holographic marker. "That." He sighed, knowing she wouldn't tell him more. "Fine," he said, "but I'm flying my way. If we're going through hostile territory, I choose the route." She nodded once. "As long as we arrive on time and alive." The officers left the room, leaving only the two of them. Ethan leaned on the table, lowering his voice. "You've got a lot of people willing to risk their lives for you." "They're not risking it for me," she said softly. "They're risking it for the cause." "And what's the cause?" he asked. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw something beyond control and calculation. He saw fire. "To take back what's mine, and to war my people started." Before he could respond, a sudden alert echoed through the station. The hangar's comms crackled. "Incoming ships unidentified." Lyra's expression didn't change. "They've found us," she said, already walking toward the exit. Ethan followed. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. In the hangar, crews scrambled to prepare defensive turrets. Through the open force field shields, Ethan saw them 5 ships, sleek and black, sliding out of hyperspace like predators. He didn't recognize the design, but from the way the station crew reacted, these weren't ordinary enemies. "They'll try to disable the station," one officer said. Lyra's voice cut through the noise. "They won't get the chance." She turned to Ethan. "Get to the horizon. If they breach the station, you leave with the crate immediately. Do not wait for me." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not running while you're still here." Her gaze was unreadable. "This isn't about me," she said. "It's about the mission." She moved toward the command platform, issuing orders with sharp precision. Ethan watched for a moment before running to the horizon. He powered up the engines, watching the black ships draw closer on the sensors. The first volley came fast streams of plasma striking the station's shields, lighting up the hangar walls in flashes of blue. The horizon shuddered under the shockwaves, even though it wasn't being targeted yet. Over the Lyra's voice was steady. "Turrets, focus fire on the lead ship, shields to maximum." Ethan couldn't help glancing toward the hangar. Doors, part of him wanted to take off now, punched through the enemy formation before they locked the station down. But something kept him waiting. Something about the way Lyra fought made him think she had a bigger plan. Minutes later, the station's turrets scored a direct hit on the lead black ship, tearing it apart in a burst of fire. The others broke formation, scattering to avoid the same fate. "Now," Lyra's voice came over the "Go, Ethan. Head to Varios. We'll cover you." He didn't hesitate. The horizon roared out of the hangar, weaving between station debris and enemy fire. One of the black ships broke off to pursue him. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Guess you really do want this crate," he muttered, punching the engines to full. Through the rear cameras he caught one last glimpse of the station Lyra standing at the command deck, giving orders like she was born for it. She wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was a commander. And Ethan was starting to realize he was part of something much bigger than himself. The horizon cut through the void, engines burning hot. Ethan kept his eyes on the navigation screen, watching the black enemy ship stick to his tail like a shadow. No matter how many turns he made or asteroid fields he skimmed, it stayed locked on him. "Persistent little thing," he muttered. He armed the rear turrets, firing a few bursts. The shots missed. The enemy pilot was good. Too good. Minutes later, a sharp alarm blared. The horizon systems flickered. "Lights dimming," Ethan cursed. EMP hit, he realized. The ship's engine sputtered, then went silent. Momentum carried him forward, but the black ship was already closing in. A low voice crackled over the com. Human pilot, surrender. Your vessel, we will take the package, and your death will be swift. Ethan smirked despite the danger. Sorry, not in the mood for swift today. He reached for the manual restart, but before he could hit it, the black ship fired a grappling tether. The horizon jolted violently as the enemy began reeling. Him like prey. Moments later, his ship was locked inside a massive hangar bay. The black ship had docked with a dreadnought, a warship so large it made the horizon look like a toy. Armed soldiers in dark armor swarmed the docking platform, weapons ready. Ethan stood, hands raised. Easy there, fellas, I bruise easily. They didn't respond, just marched him toward a set of reinforced doors. Inside, the air was colder, the lights dimmer. At the far end of the chamber sat a tall alien with gray skin and piercing red eyes. He wore a dark uniform with the same triangular insignia Ethan had seen on the black ships. So, the alien said slowly, you are the human commander Vera entrusted with her package. Ethan's mouth twitched. Yeah, she forgot to mention the welcome committee. The alien's lips curved in something between a smirk and a snarl. You don't even know what you carry, do you? Ethan stayed silent. The alien gestured, and two guards brought the crate forward. Inside this is a prototype AI core, the alien said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. One capable of controlling not just ships, but entire fleets remotely, instantly. Whoever holds it commands the skies. Ethan's chest tightened. That explained a lot why Lyra was hunted, why enemies were willing to risk entire squadrons to stop her, and why she hadn't told him. She didn't just want her fleet back, she wanted ultimate control. You're going to give it to us, the alien continued. And when you do, we will let you go. Ethan chuckled. Yeah, I've heard that one before. The alien leaned forward. If you don't, you will die here. And so will your precious commander. Those last words made Ethan pause. She's not here, he said carefully. The alien's smirk deepened. Not yet, but she will come for you. She always protects her assets, and when she does, we will take her too. Ethan's jaw tightened. He couldn't let that happen. He had no idea how he'd get out of this, but surrendering the crate wasn't an option. As if on cue, the lights flickered. The alien frowned, looking toward a guard. Check the systems, he ordered. Before the guard could move, the entire chamber shook violently. Alarms blaring. From somewhere deep inside the dreadnought, explosions rang out. Ethan couldn't help but grin. She's here, he muttered. The alien's eyes narrowed. Stop her, he barked into his cum, but there was panic in his voice now. The doors burst open. Lyra strode in. Two of her officers at her side, weapons drawn, even in the chaos. She looked composed. Hello, Dren, she said coldly to the alien leader. You never were good at keeping what you stole. The alien stood, fury in his eyes. Kill her, he ordered. The room erupted in blaster fire. Ethan dove to the floor, sliding behind the crate for cover. Lyra's shots were precise, each one dropping an enemy guard. Her officers moved like shadows, covering her from both sides. Within minutes, the chamber was silent except for the hum of the crate's containment field. The alien leader lay unconscious. Bound by Lyra's officers, she turned to Ethan, her expression unreadable. You're welcome, she said simply. Ethan stood, dusting himself off. You could have told me about the whole AI that can control fleets thing, he said. Her gaze didn't waver. And would you have helped me if I had? He hesitated. Probably not. She stepped closer. Now you know why this must reach Varios. If they get it first, the war will never end, because they'll control everyone. Ethan looked at the crate, then at her. All right, he said finally. Let's finish this. Lyra's lips curved slightly. Good, because from here on, we can't run anymore. We take the fight to them. She signaled to her officers. Plant charges on the dreadnought. We leave nothing behind. Minutes later, the horizon blasted out of the enemy ship's hangar, the dreadnought exploding in a massive fireball behind them. The shockwave rippled through space, lighting the black void with orange flame. Ethan glanced at Lyra. "You just made a lot of people very angry," she smirked. "Good. That means they'll come to us. And when they do, we'll be ready." The horizon streaked through the black void toward Varios. The burning wreck of the dreadnought was far behind them, but Ethan knew their enemies wouldn't give up. If anything, the destruction of that ship would make them desperate. And desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, her gaze fixed on the swirling storms of the planet ahead. Through the viewport, Varios looked like a dying world, its skies a swirl of ash and crimson. Clouds, flashes of light marked battles raging far below. Even from orbit, Ethan could feel the chaos. "Coordinates locked," he said. "Southern wastelands," Lyra nodded once. "They'll be waiting for us," she said quietly. "Good," Ethan replied. "Let's not disappoint them." They descended into the planet's atmosphere, the ship shuddering as thick clouds engulfed them. Lightning flashed around them, casting brief shadows across Lyra's calm face. She didn't look afraid, she looked focused, like a predator who had already chosen where she would strike. The wastelands came into view, an endless stretch of cracked, scorched earth littered with the rusted bones of old war machines. In the distance, a cluster of fortified towers rose from the dust. That was their destination. Before they could get close, the sensors lit up. Multiple contacts fighters. "Inbound," Ethan called out. "Let them come," Lyra said. Already powering up the horizon's weapons, the enemy squadron swooped in, dark shapes slicing through the dust-filled skies. Ethan weaved between bursts of plasma fire, returning shots where he could. Lyra's aim was precise. 2 fighters went down before the rest even got into proper formation. But more were coming. They didn't want the horizon to reach those towers. And Ethan was starting to understand why. "Hold them off," Lyra said. "I'm opening the crate." Ethan's eyes widened. "You said no one was allowed to open it." She looked at him, her golden eyes steady. "That was before we had no other choice." The crate's seals hissed as they disengaged. The black alloy panels slid open to reveal a sphere of pure silver. Floating above a magnetic cradle, thin streams of light ran across its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. "That's it?" Ethan asked. "That's it," she replied. Then she placed her palm on it, and the sphere came alive. Holographic rings of data exploded outward, filling the cockpit with streams of alien symbols. A deep, resonant hum filled the ship. Ethan felt the hair on his arms rise. "What's it doing?" he asked. "Calling my fleet," Lyra said, her voice low but filled with power, from high above the planet. Hidden ships began decloaking, massive warships, sleek and deadly, their hulls glowing with the same symbols as the AI core, dozens. No, hundreds of them, an entire fleet that had been scattered and silent until this moment. Ethan's jaw dropped. "You've been hiding all this." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "They were waiting for me to return. Now, they're mine again." The incoming fighters suddenly broke formation. Some fled outright, others scattered in confusion. The sight of the Starlin's fleet filling the skies had shattered their courage. Lyra's voice rang through the comms, amplified across the fleet. "This is Commander Vera. The war ends today. Drive them out. Leave none who will not surrender." The fleet moved like a living thing. Warships swept past the horizon, raining fire on enemy positions. Fighters engaged in the skies, outmatching the enemy in speed and precision. On the ground, enemy towers began to fall one by one, explosions marking their defeat. Ethan piloted the horizon toward the largest of the enemy fortresses. "Let me guess," he said. "This is where you want to land," Lyra nodded. "This is where the Council's puppet commander hides. And I want him to see my face before I take back everything he stole." They landed hard on the fortress platform. The horizon's ramp lowering, Lyra strode out first, flanked by 2 of her officers. Ethan followed, blaster in hand inside. The halls were eerily quiet. The enemy commander was waiting in the central chamber, a tall alien in ceremonial armor. His expression was frozen somewhere between fear and defiance. "So," he said, "the little ghost returns." Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "I was never a ghost," she said. "I was the storm." In a few short sentences, the confrontation was over, he surrendered, knowing the fleet outside had already erased any hope of victory. By the time they returned to the horizon, the battle was over. The Starlent's fleet controlled the skies. The war, at least here, was finished. Ethan leaned against the cockpit doorway, watching Lyra as she stood at the command console, issuing orders to her newly restored fleet. "You've got it all back now," he said. Her golden eyes flicked toward him. "Yes," she said, "but I still need a pilot I can trust." Ethan smirked. "Careful, you're starting to sound like you want me to stick around." She stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "You've already stayed longer than you had to. That tells me you've made your choice." He looked out at the fleet beyond the viewport, then back at her. "Yeah," he said finally, "I'm in." Lyra's lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "Good," she said, "because I told you from the start, human. I control everything you do." And this time Ethan didn't mind.